I'm at Chester Gap, Virginia, and I'm parked there at the end of Route 610, which is called Chester Gap Road. Chester Gap is on the east side of the Blue Ridge, next to Shenandoah National Park. Here's the end of Route 610. This is a nice little turnaround area here. You could probably get a half a dozen cars parked here. And today I'm going to hike, well, right there's the park boundary. You can see that white sign and the red blazing on the tree. So this is the park boundary to Shenandoah National Park on the east side. So we're going to hike up this trail. This is called Compton Gap Trail. It goes from here all the way up to Skyline Drive at Compton Gap. So we're going to follow this up and see a few things along the way. I'm starting at a fairly high elevation today. The elevation here is about 2,000 feet. So halfway up the mountain already. So let's get started and see what we can find. I'm 6/10 of a mile into my hike, and this is where this trail intersects with the Appalachian Trail. There's a signpost. You can see it says AT right on it. There's the white blazing. That's the Appalachian Trail heading northbound. It's only about a half a mile northbound until you leave the park. Here's where I came from, up from Chester Gap, and we're going to continue on up this way. From here up to Compton Gap, it looks like this trail, Chester Gap Trail, and the Appalachian Trail are combined, because I see on that big tree there, I see combined blazing. Yellow for the trail I'm on and white for the Appalachian Trail. So it's a few more miles up to Compton Gap. So I'm going to keep on trucking. I'm 1.3 miles into the hike. I'm still on the Compton Gap Trail, combined Compton Gap and Appalachian Trail. 1.3 miles into the hike. The elevation here is 2440. This is a really flat section of trail. Over there, just beyond that big tree that you see in the middle of the screen, is the trail, the Appalachian Trail. And I noticed this area here is pretty flat, and it'd be nice for you know, backcountry camping. And sure enough, there's a little dim trail that leads over here. There's the remains of a fire ring, and you can see that's cleared out over there just to the left of that bigger tree. My trekking poles are leaning up against that big tree, so this is a nice little area that you could use for a backcountry overnighter. That's looking towards the AT. There's a lot of dead trees laying around here. The Park Service doesn't do any kind of controlled burns in this park. They just let them lay here. God help us if lightning ever starts a fire in here. It'll be like the hugest inferno ever. We're back around to the little illegal campfire area there, and then back around to the AT. So I'll mark this one as a camp spot on my map. I'm 1.8 miles into the hike. The elevation here is 2,500 feet. There's where I came from, up the side of the mountain. That's Compton Gap Trail. And you'll notice those two huge boulders that the Park Service put there. There is a sign right there that says no horses beyond this point. And that's the trail that we're going to continue to follow on up to Compton Gap and Skyline Drive. There is a signpost here, but it's a little odd. There's a trail, which is really just an old road that takes off this way. Here's where I came from. Here's the unknown road. This road doesn't seem to have a name. The sign says if you follow that up 7/10 of a mile, it'll take you to Dickey Hill Trail. But this road itself doesn't seem to have a name. Maybe I can figure that out when I get home. But in any event, we're going to continue this way to the west, heading up the side of the Blue Ridge until we get to Compton Gap and Skyline Drive. I'm 2.2 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2530. And this is a major intersection here. There's where I came from, up the side of the mountain. That turn off that way, we'll check that out on the way back. Up there about 2/10 of a mile is a rock formation called the Fort Windham Rocks. I'm not a geologist, so I don't really understand the significance of it, but we'll go up there and I'll show you what they look like on the way back. And we're going to continue down this way to Compton Gap. Up there through the trees you can see Compton Peak. That's about a mile away. And then down this way is the old Indian Run shelter in Indian Run itself. So we're going to continue on down here to Compton Gap. There isn't really much to see there, but I want to walk all the way to up there, and we'll come back. We can go this way and check out the Indian Run shelter, and then we can go over this way and check out Fort Windham Rocks, and then we'll go back home this way. For now, we're going to continue on up this trail till we get to Compton Gap. I'm 2.5 miles into my hike. I'm at Compton Gap. The elevation here is 2415. There's Skyline Drive heading southbound, and just off to the right there is a trail that takes you up to Compton Peak. There's a parking lot. It's a fairly big parking lot because the Appalachian Trail runs right through the middle of that parking lot. There's where I came from. Here's the here's Skyline Drive heading northbound. And up there is Compton Peak. That's a nice hike too, but we're not going there today. So I'm going to turn around here and I'm going to head back towards the Indian Run shelter and the Fort Windham rocks.
Never seen wildlife like this.
Yep.
How you doing?
Wave for the camera. Right up there's the parking area I came from, but I noticed this is an old abandoned road right here that heads down the west side of the mountain, and right over there I see a U.S. Geological Survey benchmark. Let's go over and take a look. Well, there's an old U.S. Coast and Geodetic Survey benchmark. It's stamped R141, dated 1935. And it's right next to this old abandoned road that I showed you. And right up there, right there's Skyline Drive. It's just at a bend in the road here at Skyline Drive, just maybe 80 feet off the road. Here comes a car now for reference. There it is there. I'll have to look up the elevation of the benchmark when I get home. Okay, I'm back up to the four-way intersection. That way takes you to the Fort Windham rocks. That way takes me back home. Well, we're going to go this way right now and head down towards the Indian Run shelter and check that out. Here's Indian Run Spring. It's about 1/10 of a mile off the trail. Coming down from that way. There's the marker right next to the spring. Here's where it comes out of the side of the mountain, and right down here, for example, is a nice spot, little pool where you can get your water, dip your water out pretty easy. And then beyond that, it flattens out quite a bit. Gets real flat down through there. Right up there, that's a cleared out area. I'm guessing that people use that probably as a campsite because it's right next to the spring. So I'm going to go back up this way about 1/10 of a mile back to the fire road that leads to the shelter and continue on down the side of the mountain until we get to Indian Run shelter. This is the Indian Run shelter. It's not used as a shelter anymore. You can see it's boarded up in the front. There's a sign on the side that says it's a Potomac Appalachian Trail Club maintenance building now. So there's the fire road coming down. I came down on that road. I'm 3.3 miles into the hike, and the elevation here is 2314. There's some picnic tables here though, so I'm gonna take off my pack and eat lunch here. Down that way is the outhouse. There's no camping signs posted. It looks like over there, that's kind of cleared out. That looks like maybe people used to camp there, or maybe they still do and they're not supposed to. I don't see any evidence of fires over there though. Here's the shelter. Here, let me walk up here and I'll give you a better look. There's a sign on the side that says Indian Run, PATC Maintenance Building, no camping. A couple of nice picnic tables. There's a fire pit. They're shaped like that to reflect the heat back into the building. And the ones that are used for actual shelters, that area there is open, and inside there's usually two different levels. There's a level about a foot off the ground, and then there's another one about halfway up where people can sleep on either level. So anyway, it's pretty nice looking here. You can see they have built some fires here. It's okay in the park to build them in these fire pits here next to the shelters. So anyway, I'll go down here and get a picture of the outhouse technology. I don't know if this is a pit privy or one of the new composting ones, but we'll see. And then I'm going to sit here and eat my lunch. It's not quite 11, but I got an early start today because this area is a lot closer to where I live than most areas I hike now. So let me get off my pack and eat some lunch. Hey, check this out. Keebler is a proud sponsor of Major League Baseball. Good for Keebler. We also have Quaker Chewy granola bars, low fat, oatmeal, and raisin. These things are pretty tasty. There's the in-waistband holster that I use. It's a nice leather one made by DeSantis. It's called a Summer Heat. Very nice. And I wear it on cross draw because when you're wearing your pack, it's hard to reach your strong side. But on a cross draw, you can reach in from the front and grab something if you have to. And then inside here is a little 5-shot. I've showed you this before. 5-shot Smith & Wesson 38 Special. Nice little piece. Here's a compass I use most of the time. This is called a base plate compass. It's got a clear base plate. And these are easier to use for most mapping situations, easier to use than the USG Island static compass. This one's a real simple one. It's made by Suunto, S-U-U-N-T-O. It's a model A10. It's got some scales on it that I hardly ever use, but there it is on the map with 12 degrees of western declination dialed in, which is the western declination for this map. I'll explain more about the map when I get home. We are right here currently at the Indian Run shelter, and I took a picture of my GPS coordinates here, and when I get home I'll explain a little more about UTM coordinates and how you get from your GPS to putting it onto the map. But for now I'm just sort of sitting here relaxing. But in a few minutes we're going to take off back up the side of the mountain to the four-way intersection, and then we're going to head towards the Windham rock formation. Okay, I'm back up to the four-way intersection. We're 3.8 miles into the hike. The elevation here is 2490, and there's where I came from. The shelter's down that way, about a quarter of a mile, and we're going to go back that way. For now I'm going to cross over and where those two hikers are there, and head up this way to the Fort Windham rock formation. I'm 4 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2585, and these are the Fort Windham rock formations. I'm almost on top of them. Not much over that way. There's three great big columns, one there, and one there with that other hiker standing up on top of it. So I'll climb up here just a little further and get a few more still pictures. Here's a 360 pan up near the top of the Fort Windham rocks. There's the very highest rocks. And looking down there is a trail that you come up here on from the four-way intersection. That's looking to the west. That's Compton Peak over there, about a mile away. That's a nice hike over there. Down there's a little more of the trail going this way. Here's a huge crevasse down to the center of the earth somewhere in between a couple of these rocks. There's another peak over there. I don't know which one that is. And this little area here is actually up here near the top of the rocks, has got enough tree leaves and stuff that it's built up some dirt here, and there's actually some grass and flowers growing up here. And back around to your starting position. Fort Windham rocks. Okay, well, I backtracked from Fort Windham Rocks back to the four-way and turned left, and now I'm heading down this old fire road that they call Compton Gap Fire Road. It's also the stretch of it's part of the Appalachian Trail, heading northbound. I think it's about 3 miles back to my car, so it's a nice hike. The very beginning of it, starting at the end of Route 610 and coming up the east side of the mountain, is pretty steep for about a mile, but after that it's pretty flat like you see here. A little bit roller coastery, but all in all it's a nice hike, especially if you're not in the world's best shape, or if you've got a larger group that just wants to get out and see nature a little bit. So I'm going to turn off the video, and if I see some interesting shots on the way back, I'll take a few more still pictures. Lions and tigers and bears. Lions and tigers and bears. We're not in Kansas anymore. .7 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2310, and I'm back to the turnoff. Here's where the Appalachian Trail veers off to the left. You go down this way a couple tenths of a mile and you walk out of the park. And I'm going to continue on down this way, down to my car, which is down here at the park boundary at about 2,000 feet elevation. I think it's about 2 or 3 more tenths of a mile. Here's a map of today's hike. The quadrangle name is Chester Gap, 1994. The area inside this red is Shenandoah National Park. So I came in from Front Royal's up here, and it came from Front Royal. You come south on Route 522 to Chester Gap, Virginia, and then you turn right on Route 610, and you follow Route 610 up the side of the mountain until it dead ends right here. This is the entrance to the park, and this is called Compton Gap Trail. So the beginning part of this trail is pretty steep. You'll notice that the trail here is crossing through a lot of contour lines, so that section's steep. Now once you get up to here, you'll notice that these contour lines are a lot more spread out, which means that it's flat in through here, relatively flat. So you hike all the way up to here is where that Mystery Road intersection is, and this is as far up as you can come on horseback. From here up to Skyline Drive is foot travel only. So you continue on up this way. This is the four-way intersection. Okay, this way takes you to Indian Run Shelter. This way takes you up to the rock formations. And so initially we came all the way up here to Skyline Drive. This is Compton Gap. You go across the street. There's a trail right here that you can follow. I didn't do this today, but takes you up here to Compton Peak. That's a nice hike. But anyway, I hiked up to here, And then I went across the street and I noticed, now this is just a dotted line on this map. I highlighted it in yellow, but here's the road that continues down the west side of the mountain. Okay, but it's abandoned, and you'll see in the video that it's barely recognizable as a road, but there is a road there. And next to that road, right about here, was that survey benchmark. Okay, I was on the west side of Skyline Drive and just north of the where this old abandoned road would have crossed the mountain here. So I hiked up to here, then turned around and went back to the four-way intersection. Okay, and then we went down the side of the mountain to here, to Indian Run Shelter, ate lunch, back up to the four-way intersection, and then up this way, up the mountain a little ways to here, which is the rock formations. And then back to the four-way, and then all the way back on a downhill slope down to my car right here. So that's the hike for today. I'm going to stop the video now and restart it with another short segment explaining a little bit about how you can take the UTM coordinates off your GPS and find your location on the map. Okay, I included a still picture of my GPS coordinates when I was here at the Indian Run Shelter. So I copied them down here, and in the UTM coordinate system, you don't have east and west and north and south. You only have easting and northing. Okay, now because you only have easting and northing, there's some additional complications, like there's a zone designator, and we're in zone 17S actually. Zone 17 tells you how far east of the international date line you are, and the S tells you how far north of the equator we are, in a latitude band north of the equator. And then these numbers here are how many meters I am east of the center of this zone 17S. And these numbers is how far north I am from the equator. Now, for most hiking, these high order numbers, you can ignore the zone unless you're going to be crossing over from one zone into another. You can ignore the 17S, and you can also ignore the 07. You can ignore that, and you can ignore the 43, and you can just focus on the last 10,000 meters. So this 46155, that's 46,155 meters, and this is 1,086 meters. Okay, now on the 46,000, you'll notice up here, I have, for eastings, I have 44, 45, 46,000, 47,000. So this is a little bit east of 46,000. Well, here's 46,000. Come down here. So we know we're somewhere a little bit east of this vertical line right here. And on the northing, we're a little bit north of 1,000. Well, right there's 01, and here's 02. So we're a little bit north of there. So what I did was I put some tick marks here to help me plot this a little more accurately. You can get those tick marks from the bottom of the map. Here's the information at the bottom of the map. And this section here shows you the scale for meters. This is 1 kilometer, which is 1,000 meters. So from here to here is a kilometer, and each one of these alternately shaded areas is 1/10 of that, okay, or 100 meters. So what I did was I took this scale here and I made little tick marks on the map from here to here, and also tick marks on the map from here up to here, because it's going to be somewhere in this block right here. It's 1 kilometer from here to here, and it's 1 kilometer from here up to here. So 46,155, there's 46, and there's 46,1, and 155 is about there. And then 01086, 011 would be here, so 086, excuse me, 011 would be there, 086 is down just a little ways, so that puts us about right there on the map. And that's the same exact spot they have it marked for Indian Run Shelter. So that's how you take your UTM coordinates off your GPS, and you basically just plot them on your map. And to get a little more accuracy, they actually have rulers that you can use for this purpose. But you can also just come over here and print this information out to the same zoom level that you used on the map, and copy that over here, okay, as these little tick marks. And then you can plot this information on here, and you can find out exactly where you are on your map.